of the modal verb, which is ought. But before that, let us understand what are modals. Now, modals are basically referred to as the words which are used to indicate someone's expression or someone's mood at a particular time. It is also used to express some kind of possibility, some kind of probability, or some certainty. Now, talking about a modal verb ought. Now, ought is used in a form which is similar to must or should. Ought, remember that ought is always used with future indefinite tense. Ought is always used with future indefinite tense. It can represent the sentence with present form or future form. It can also be represented by past tense. Can be represented by past tense. Past tense when it is preceded by a past tense verb. When it is preceded by a past tense verb, ought can also be used with past tense. Now, let us consider some examples of ought. Ought is similar to should or must. That depends upon the sentence. Now, example of ought can be, I ought to write her a letter. Now it can be, I must write her a letter, I should write her a letter, but here we are talking about the modal verb ought, so I say I ought to write her a letter. Another example can be, I knew I ought to talk to her. So I knew is again the past, that I knew, but the thing is not done, right? So this is for the action which was supposed to complete, but it is not completed. I knew I ought to write her a letter, which means that I knew that I should talk to her. I must talk to her, right? But here should is more appropriate, but instead of should, I am making use of the modal ought to. Now we can use the modal ought when we are giving someone a piece of advice, or when we are considering any kind of moral duty or obligation. So first way in which ought can be used is for moral advice, for moral duty, for a piece of advice, or for any kind of obligation. Let us consider examples of the above. I can say that we ought to respect our parents. Now, if I want a replacement of ought to over here, I will say that we must respect our parents. So here, ought to sounds similar to must. So we ought to respect our parents. This is our moral duty, to respect our parents. So this sentence represents a moral duty. Next example can be, you ought to consult a doctor. Here I am giving my advice to someone that I think that you're not feeling good, you must consult a doctor. So here again, instead of ought to, I can also use must, but here we are talking about a modal ought. So therefore I'm using the modal ought. So you ought to consult a doctor. This is my advice that I'm giving to someone. Then for obligations, so a sentence where we can represent obligation, it can be like, you ought to help a person in need. Again, sounds similar to must. This is my obligation, which means that we ought to help a person, we must help a person who is in need, or any person, be it our friend or not, but we must help a person in need. So this was the first field or first case where ought can be used. Another area where ought can be used is in the perfect tenses. In cases where a certain condition is not fulfilled. Perfect tenses in cases where a condition is not fulfilled. So example of such case can be, you should have ought to invite her. So this is my perfect tense where I'm talking to that you should have ought to invite her, but you have not invited her. So my action over here is not completed. Another example for perfect tenses can be, he ought to have helped him in that manner. He ought to have helped him in that manner, but he hasn't helped, which means that my action has not completed, right? Because my action is not completed, therefore it is a condition which is not fulfilled, but I am using ought in this sentence. Now, another case where we can make use of ought is, like it is considered that ought to and should are similar, but when it can be used in informal manner, but when we are writing any formal notice, then instead of ought to we will always prefer should. So a case where ought to can be used but it is not used is because ought to is similar to should. But in formal notice we make use of should instead of ought to. For example, I say, the students should be present tomorrow. Now I am talking about should, but I can also say the students ought to be present tomorrow. This is also correct, but when I am talking about formal notices, then ought to is not used. We make use of the modal should. Another example is, the employees should complete their project positively. So again over here I can make use of ought to, but I do not, because both of these sentences are for formal letters. It can be for formal notice or for formal verbal communication, right? I'm not talking something informally to someone. This is a command that I am giving. This is the instructions that I am giving as a head to my juniors, right? So this is something formal, and for formal, instead of ought to, we will be making use of the modal should. So in these cases, ought to is not used. Another area where ought to is used is ought plus negative form. Ought plus negative form, or ought can also be used in interrogative sentences. Right? Ought plus negative means ought, not, or ought and apostrophe T. And apostrophe T also is a short form of not. So this is pronounced as ought not, and this is pronounced as oughtn't. So example over here can be ought not we have ordered a lot of food. It means that we should not have ordered a lot of food. So there are various cases in which ought can be used. Ought can be used for a simple sentence. It can be used for the replacement of should or must. Ought can be used for perfect tenses, for the conditions which should be fulfilled but they are not fulfilled. Ought can be used for negative sentences. Ought can also be used with interrogative sentences. Interrogative sentence can be ought I be present there. So ought can be as must or should, right? We will always get a sound of must or should while we are using